Hi, everyone. Welcome. We've got a great group logging in really quickly, which is super exciting. My name is Chelsea Whitman. I am an assistant director in admissions. Excited you all are joining us for the Levine Scholars Program overview as part of Honors College Week this week. So we have the hour dedicated to doing an overview of the Levine Scholars Finalist Program. So we're going to be hearing from Abe Desi and some of our current scholars. While today's session is one-way audio and video, we still certainly want to interact and engage with you all, ensuring that we're discussing and answering the specific questions that you all might have come to the session with, or we talk about something that prompts a question. So as you have questions as we're going along, feel free to drop them into the Q&A at any point. We will get to as many questions as we can throughout the session or towards the end. So just drop them in there as you can. Glad you're all here. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Abe and we will get started.
All right, thank you so much, Chelsea, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abe Desi. I am the Associate Director of the Levine Scholars Program. I am so excited to see so many of you taking the time to participate in this session. So I will do my best to answer the questions. Some of them I'll do live as we get to that portion. The others I may just kind of hold off until the end. So I would say the second that you have the question, like Chelsea mentioned, go ahead and drop it into the Q&A section, and we will definitely get to answer all of the questions before we get going. So to kind of kick us off, I thought it would just make the most sense to talk about the benefits of the scholarship. So it is the premier merit scholarship at UNC Charlotte. What we mean by that is that essentially it covers your cost of attendance for the 4 years. So when we refer to cost of attendance, that is your tuition, so full tuition, regardless of what you're studying, room and board, as well as meal plan. Now, beyond that, I think one of the things that makes the Levine Scholarship unique is that there's also kind of additional fundings that are available for you to cover your other elements. And as you can see here, book stipend is also covered. So you'll get a little bit over $650 every semester. And in most cases, you may not need that much per semester. But again, that is money that is allocated to you. But really beyond the monetary benefits of the program, it is really that 4-year support that you receive from our staff. I think that really makes this a very enriching program. So as you can see, priority registration, the summer enrichment experiences, civic engagement, professional development is something that we stress. So we definitely want to get you ready for whatever your next step will be. And to do that, we'll connect you to faculty and staff, as well as folks in the industries in which you want to pursue. Undergraduate research is also something that we emphasize. We actually have a faculty fellow in our program who oversees our research mentorship initiative, where basically she identifies faculty members across campus and connects our scholars based on their interests with the faculty members that are conducting research. So our program does give you the ability to get involved in research in your freshman year. And for a lot of folks who actually show up either not knowing what research is or not even thinking that they'll be interested in it, we always say, go ahead, try it for a semester, get your feet wet. And surprisingly enough, some of the folks that actually stay with it for 2 years, 3 years, and 4 years are the individuals who came in not even thinking that was going to be something that they'll take advantage of. We also do alternative spring breaks. So service, civic engagement is a major component of the Levine Scholars Program. In addition to the expectation that you volunteer on a regular basis, our program, again, this isn't mandatory, but you are also offered the ability to do a service trip during spring break. Historically, in the past, we went to Charleston, Chattanooga, to Roanoke, Virginia, and then we are continuing to kind of expand the opportunities that are available as well. All right, so civic engagement, I touched on this a little bit. This is one of the components of the program by the donors. Students are, this is also the kind of criteria under which when we are reviewing your application and making selections, we look to see if you are an individual that is interested in service and civic engagement. So meaning, are you interested in getting involved with things that are focused on the betterment of others? So that is something that we look for. And scholars are provided an $8,000 grant to create a community engagement project that helps to address a need that they've identified in the greater Charlotte area. And there's a process in which you'll go about doing this, working again with our faculty fellow, identifying either a nonprofit in the Charlotte area or a campus partner that will help you put this together. But some of these programs that you're seeing are actually legacy programs. Dance Marathon is something that the Levine Scholars started on our campus, and it is actually one of the larger student fundraisers, and it goes to the Levine Children's Hospital here in Charlotte. And Dance Marathon is actually a national program that exists on other campuses. Ronald McDonald House, the Charlotte house was built a little bit over 10 years ago. And our program, on a monthly basis, we actually go and cook and serve meals. And even during COVID-19, we are still participating in this effort. Obviously, we're not going there and cooking the meals anymore, but we do still make sure as a program serve meals. And then there's actually also a community garden on campus that one of our scholars started as part of their civic engagement project. From it actually grew a student organization, and now that community garden still goes on. So there's the ability to definitely create a new project yourself, and hopefully it becomes a legacy program, or you have the ability to kind of add on to existing programs. But really the purpose of it is for you to be really understand the value in supporting others, and then just being civically minded prior to graduation. The other enrichment opportunities that are part of the program, we typically refer to them as summer experiences. And while the first two are fixed in a given specific summer, the last two being your pre-professional and intern experience, international experience, you actually get to do it based on when it fits best for your program. Now, for this experience, each of these experience scholars are also provided funding to be able to do this as well. So students receive $5,000 per summer towards all of these 4 programs, and any money that you do not use in one summer actually becomes available to you in future summers. So if you're planning to do, say, a more expensive experience later on in your academic career, kind of being minded of how you spend your money up front may give you additional funding on the back end. So to talk about these 4 summer experiences, and I won't spend too much on this because we'll have our scholars join us shortly, and we'll talk about how their individual experience were. But Knowles takes place between the senior year of your high school and freshman year of college. So it is actually that first summer before you even step foot here on campus. And it is an outdoor leadership training program. And again, you get to do it in beautiful Wyoming. Sometimes folks do not believe me when I say this, but the image that you're actually seeing is an image that a student took on one of these experiences. So someone actually asked a question about participating in Knowles during COVID-19. This past summer, we were actually able to take scholars, all of the incoming scholars, to Lander, Wyoming. And we were able to safely get them there and safely get them back. There is tremendous protocol that is built in order to make this happen. So we were excited that scholars did not miss out on this experience, as it is really one of those unique bonding opportunities for the incoming scholars. And we can go more into depth about that, and we will over the course of the summer, what the COVID-19 protocols look like for Knowles. But that is still a program that we were able to do this past summer. And assuming, obviously, we don't know what this upcoming summer will bring, but that is certainly something that we are going to try and do as a program. The second summer experience takes place between your freshman and sophomore year. It is a nonprofit internship and it has to be done with an organization in the greater Charlotte area. You as a scholar get to pick the organization. The only requirement on our end is that it has to be a minimum of 5 weeks. However, some individuals actually end up doing it for a longer period of time. And it gives you this very unique experience to really see how a nonprofit functions, from the service line all the way up to kind of what the board meetings look like, and how really all the different levels are connected in order for a nonprofit organization to exist. For a lot of our scholars, this turns out to be an opportunity, or really for some individuals, they end up adding a minor or a major due to this experience. For some, this becomes the nonprofit organization under which they do their civic engagement project as well. The next is going to be the pre-professional experience. Again, with this, scholars get to do this at any point over the course of the 4 years. We'll actually have one scholar here with us that will talk about how he was able to do more than one pre-professional experience. Again, the expectation and the requirement on our end is that it has to be a minimum of 6 weeks. The goal is for you to gain professional experience. So for you to get kind of an early sneak peek into the profession that you are interested in pursuing. And it's also a great way for you to establish a network and relationships in that profession prior to graduation. And we've had some scholars who have been offered positions as a result of the pre-professional experience that they've done. And then the last piece is going to be international experience. Obviously, right now, the ability to travel abroad is a little bit challenging, and in some cases, it's not possible. What I can guarantee you is that for you as an incoming freshman, over the course of your 4 years, obviously things will get back to normal, where you will get the opportunity to be able to do this. We're very excited to say that our scholars have had the opportunity to be on every single continent, with an exception to Antarctica. They have studied in 45 different countries, but they've visited a lot more, as some scholars have found very creative ways as they are doing study abroad to be able to visit some of the neighboring countries. And then obviously some continents make it a little bit easier than others to be able to do that. Again, when you go abroad, as well as how many times you go abroad, it will be very dependent on your academic program of study. But we've had scholars who've actually got the chance to study up to 3 different semesters. So during the academic year, as well as over the course of the summer. So again, our requirement is that you at least go out of the country once. And we are fully aware that actually the vast majority of the incoming scholars have not had the opportunity to study abroad prior to being a Levine scholar. So we know that for some individuals, this is an experience that could be a little bit nerve-wracking, to be in a new culture, and possibly even in a country where you may not be fluent in the language. So one of the things that our program has set up is a summer study abroad with our faculty director and faculty fellow. So it gives you the ability to satisfy your international experience, gives you the chance to go out of the country, but you get to do it in the comfort of individuals that you already know. So again, there are ways in which to help you do this. And part of the program is to support you in all the ventures that you want to take. So you will have plenty of support and guidance as you're selecting where to go, how long to go for, and which program is best suited for you. As far as life after the Levine, a lot of the times that I get this question from be it students or parents is really in the form of, what can this program do for me? So meaning that I've got these very big ambitions post college, and will the Levine Scholars Program get me there? And really the best way that I can answer that for you is kind of where you land is going to be at the intersection of obviously your ambition and the work that you're willing to put it towards kind of achieving that ambition over the course of your 4 years here. Our program will help you with all sense of the planning. So from figuring out how do you go about kind of getting these very competitive internships and scholarships and employment opportunities. So we will help you kind of plan out the roadmap. And then obviously kind of it'll be up to you to do the work. As far as the life after the Levine, the scholarship, as I started off saying, is open to all students and all majors at UNC Charlotte. So we have individuals that have graduated from the program that are nurses and teachers. We also have individuals who are working in companies that may be considered household names. We have individuals that have went off to graduate programs at a wide range of locations. And you can see some of the institutions kind of written here. And we've written some of the more prestigious ones, but really we've got graduates that are in a wide range of places. And then we've also had individuals who have decided to pursue postgraduate fellowships as well. So really the program is meant to kind of help you make it what you want it to be, provide you with the support and the resources necessary to get you to whatever the next step you're interested in. To talk a little bit about the selection timeline, so based on where we are now, we are about 5 days away from the application closing. So I'm sure you may be a little bit annoyed by probably the constant reminder emails that you're getting, letting you know either Section A or Section B is not completed. But we really do that for your interest. So we want you to be aware that your application is incomplete. So that way you are continuing to work on it and really to make sure that you do not miss that November 16th deadline. Once your application is complete for the Levine Scholarship, there's no additional material that you need to provide. Our office will handle kind of that initial review and semifinalist review. So those of you moving forward to the semifinalist stage will be notified on December 1. And then as far as moving to the finalist stage, those of you that are moving forward will be notified on January 2nd. Now, I do want you to block off February 14th and 15th, as that is historically, or actually that is when we're holding finalist program. This upcoming year, we have decided to make the event virtual, but there's still going to be time commitments for you within that Sunday and Monday. So I would recommend that you go ahead and block that off on your calendar. Now, as far as selection criteria, we take all parts of your application and we are really trying to assess these 3 things that I've listed here. So to kind of help break that down a little bit more for you, with intellectual curiosity, we are basically trying to gauge your passion for learning. And we don't mean that just in the sense of, I take classes and I earn A's in them, but really your passion for learning. So we look at the types of courses that you've taken, how well you've done in those, the rigor of those courses, but also if you've had the opportunity to do outside classroom learning opportunities, such as participating in enrichment programs as well. And then of course, there's one essay question which tries to tease out kind of what your passion for learning is. So that is essentially how we kind of try to evaluate you on the basis of that criteria. The second one is your commitment to service. So with this, it's basically us trying to gauge your level of interest and willingness to help and support others. And again, how you go about identifying needs, be it in your household, in your high school, in your community, and how you go about to address those. Again, with civic engagement being a signature component of the program, we look to see in the form of community service or anything close to it, the types of things that you've done at the high school level that hopefully would demonstrate your continued interest and desire to build on that once you get at the collegiate level. And then lastly, we're looking at your capacity for ethical leadership. For us, when we talk about leadership, we talk about it from the perspective of both formal and informal roles. So the formal roles, I think, are probably a little bit easier to identify by saying, I am the captain of my track team, or I am the vice president of my student organization. And then the informal roles could be, hey, I identified a need in my high school, and therefore I was able to work with the school counselor and a few of my peers. And then we went ahead and started being able to address whatever the issue may have been in your high school. So please note that as you are putting together your activities list, especially when it comes down to ethical leadership, we're not just looking for titles alone. So we are looking to see what you've done. And again, a lot of that is a way for you to demonstrate possibly the informal roles that you've taken in the form of leadership as well. Now, the expectation for scholars once you set foot on campus, obviously you have to be a full-time student. You have to maintain high standards in academics and conduct while you're here. You have to continue to participate in programmatic activities. So that is the summer enrichment opportunities that you're expected to do, as well as some of the other programming that is done. And then we encourage you to get involved in campus. Again, not necessarily a requirement, but something that all Levine scholars do. And you get to pick what those involvements are. And then last but not least, all scholars are expected to take a 1 credit hour seminar, both in the fall and spring of their freshman year. And then in the fall semester of your sophomore year. And all of them are really getting ready to gear you up to understand what it means to be a Levine scholar, how you can go about making an impact over the course of your 4 years in the program, on campus, in the greater Charlotte area, along with getting you ready for your summer experiences as well. Now, I want to touch quickly on the application materials, and then we've got 3 of our scholars here with us, so we will quickly turn it over to the panel questions, and then which also gives us the ability to start answering the questions that you all have. Now, as far as the application materials that you are expected to submit, this is what you are expected to provide for the Levine Scholarship. So you have to do your university application. So that part is one piece of it and all the items that are required to complete your university application. Beyond that, so the transcript that you provide for the university also satisfies a requirement for our program as well. So you don't have to provide it twice, just one time into your application is sufficient. The next is your activities list or resume. So you may hear 2 different kind of words at the high school level. You are expected to respond to 3 essay prompts, and you can see those in section B of your application. And then with letters of recommendations, you are required to provide a minimum of 2, but you have the ability to request and actually have up to 3. So with that, when you log into the application, you see it broken up as section A and section B. Section A is basically where you kind of verify to make sure that your demographic information and biographical information about you is accurate. So you want to make sure your address is correct, your email address is correct, your major that you're interested in pursuing. And this is also where you go ahead and list out your recommenders. So with the recommendations, like I mentioned, you have the ability to request up to 3 individuals. Once the 2 are in, your application is considered complete from this piece of it, but you can definitely have up to 3, and there's definitely no harm in having a 3rd one. And again, actually, in a lot of cases, it is to your best interest if you're able to get a 3rd letter of recommendation. Now, the 2, so essentially the first one we ask be from someone that can talk about your academic abilities. So this could be a teacher, either at the high school, or if you're doing dual enrollment courses at the collegiate level. If you did any kind of summer enrichment programs that were academic focused, that individual can also write you the academic letter of recommendation. The second one is an individual that can talk about your community service or leadership opportunities. So it could be, the advisor for your student organization. It could be your supervisor at your job. It could also be essentially kind of the individual that is oversees maybe the nonprofit under which you've been doing a lot of community service for. So you kind of get a wide range of individuals that you get to ask in that category. And then the third one is optional. So you can really ask anyone who you feel can essentially represent you very well, and can also provide us with insight about those three criteria that I mentioned earlier with regards to your ethical leadership skills, commitment to community service, or intellectual curiosity. So any individual that can really talk about any one of those three categories, or even all three of those categories, can write that letter of recommendation for you. The second you submit the information in section A, then an email goes out to your recommenders. You actually have the ability in your portal to send reminder emails if they don't submit it. So especially as we're down to the last 5 days, you want to make sure you are communicating with them. So in addition to sending the reminder email through the portal, I would also encourage you to email them, call them, or connect with them in any way that you can to say, hey, I've noticed my recommendation is not in, if that happens to be the case. So that's kind of what happens with section A. As far as section B is concerned, section B is where you go and upload your essay and list of activities. So you just simply basically upload the document. With the essays, if you have already submitted them, don't stress. If you are still kind of refining and editing, be sure to put the essay prompt at the top of the document. It just makes things a lot easier, but as long as you upload it correctly, there's really no issue whatsoever. On our end, to give you a little bit of insight of what we look for, these three places are really good questions to ask yourself as you are reading your essays. And if you're actually also working with other individuals who are helping you to edit the essay for you, they should be able to answer these three questions upon reading your essay. So the first being, does it answer the essay prompt that you're being asked? So I know in some cases I've seen individuals who attempt to be creative, and while they are successful at the attempt of writing a creative essay, you may miss the goal of answering the question. So if you kind of had to weigh between the two, the first thing you want to make sure that you are responding to the essay prompt. The second is, does it help us to get to know you a little bit better? So as you are writing your essays, especially when you have the ability to write 3 essays, don't use the same example for all 3 essays, because again, the essays are the ability for us to get to know you a little bit better. So if you are able to use different scenarios, different cases, as you're writing your essays, the more we get to know about you. So kind of approach it from that perspective. And then really kind of at the core of it all is, are you able to write at a senior in high school or a freshman in college level? So that is kind of where we expect your writing ability to be. So is it well written? Is it thoughtful? Again, is it creative in the sense of are you able to articulate your ideas and thoughts? Is it engaging? Is it reflective? And then of course, the creative, engaging, and reflective really depends on the essay prompt. So in some of the questions, you can't be creative because the question is just not designed that way. So really, again, start off by saying, is my essay well written? Is it thoughtful in the answer that it provides? And then if you're able to incorporate the other pieces to it, then I think you have a very strong essay. And then with your activities list, we don't give you any guidance in terms of how to format. So I really would encourage you, again, you can do a couple of Google search just to see the different types of layouts that you can utilize. But beyond the layout, and again, our office is fully aware that everyone has different types of support when it comes to preparing this. So we are not focused on the layout by any means whatsoever. But obviously some documents are a lot easier to read than others. So try to keep the reader in mind. But what you want to make sure that you do is, with every activity that you list out, do not assume that the reviewer knows what that is. So it is always in your best interest if you have the ability to kind of put a 1 sentence, 2 sentence explaining what that activity is. So if you say that I received the you know the Robert Moore Award at my high school. We may not know who Robert Moore is at your high school, but in your high school, that award may only be given to the high school senior who has provided the most volunteer hours. So kind of writing a one-liner saying this award is given to the senior who completed the most volunteer hours in a given year gives us excellent insight into what that activity or what that award means. So try to spend a little bit of time to make sure helping the reader understand what they are reading. Does it talk about your length of involvement? So put times around it. I've been involved in this activity from freshman to senior year, or I've just been involved in this in my junior year. And then again, beyond the titles that you held in organizations, it is also beneficial to kind of talk about your contribution. So you may have been the, say, secretary of your organization, but as a result of being the secretary, one of your responsibilities was to identify guest speakers on a weekly basis. So rather than just telling us that you were the secretary of the organization, providing the description that you were responsible for identifying teachers and peers and folks in the community to come speak to your fellow students, again, gives us a better understanding of what that involvement means. So I say all that to say with the hope that is helpful. So we will use this time to transition to our Q&A. And as we transition, I know Chelsea is going to come back and join us. And I will also pause so we can have our current scholars introduce themselves, and then we will jump right into the Q&A.
I'll let you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves, and then we'll hop into Q&A.
I guess I can go first. Hey everyone, my name is Sarah. I am a senior Levine scholar and I study psychology and sociology, and I have a minor in communications, and I grew up in the Raleigh area.
Hey everyone, my name is Carlos Chávez Ramirez. I'm from Asheville, North Carolina. I am also a senior Levine, and I am studying mechanical engineering with a minor in economics.
Hi everyone, my name is Chiamako Kankwo, and I'm also a senior Levine scholar, and I'm studying biology and Spanish with minors in public health and chemistry.
All right, so I think, Chelsea, do you want me to start off some of the questions?
Yeah, if you want to tackle them, that's great. I know some of them may require a typed response because we've got a fair amount in there. And a lot about the application process, which makes a lot of sense. Okay. Being that we're against a deadline. So I can pitch them to you, or if you want to tackle them.
I was going to say, I'm happy to type the questions if you want to ask some of them online, and then I can type a response to the more technical questions.
Okay. So I'll start, since we just got an intro for our students. I'll start with some more about the experience, some questions that we have that I think will be helpful. So as a Levine scholar, did you find your interest in your major through the structure and support of the program?
I think this varies largely by Levine Scholar. Everybody kind of has their own journey, and that's something that the Levine Scholars Program staff is really great about. I knew my freshman year, I came in as an engineering student, and the entire way through, I've thought of myself as an engineering student. I think halfway through, I did add on the economics minor, and that was just something that I really like to do. But I know people who have changed multiple times, and the Levine Scholars staff is phenomenal in supporting them and helping them talk through the choices that they have. So hope that answers the question.
And just to add to that, I think the same for me. I came in as bio, but I think that the Levine Scholars Program also provides an exceptional opportunity for exploration. So my first internship, nonprofit internship to the program was at the health department. And so that allowed me to learn so much more about public health and how that related to my interest in medicine because I am pre-med. And so I was able to add that. And then later I was able to also add a Spanish major because of one of the international experiences that I had through the Levine Scholars Program as well. So all these things kind of come together. You're able to explore your interest in a different way because you have all these resources provided by the program. And so for that reason, you're able to basically expand your understanding of what you are interested in and what you want more knowledge about. And I think that's really, really incredible. And it's a really important piece of the program as well.
Awesome. So we've gotten several questions. Abe can probably speak to acceptance rates and things like that, but a lot of students are always curious about the competitiveness of the program. And so from the student perspective, students that actually went through the application process and the finalist program, in terms of your experiences, how just from that side of it, not necessarily looking at numbers of applications or anything, but can you just talk a little bit about how competitive you felt the full process was, and maybe some takeaways from your personal experience in those processes that you felt kind of helped you progress through the process of applying?
I think I can touch on that. It was a long time ago for all three of us, since I guess that was 4 years now. But I think we can all say that we remember it pretty vividly. It's definitely a stressful time. And you guys are more than likely applying to multiple competitive scholarships in multiple competitive schools. So it's a lot. I was not one of those people. I only applied to one scholarship and I only applied to public schools in North Carolina. That was the choice that I made and it was right for me. Although I would definitely recommend applying to some more places than I did. But in terms of the application, I think my best advice would be to do as much research as you can in terms of like the deadlines. And I know the deadline's approaching pretty fast, so most of you are already on your way. But the essay is what I was most nervous about when I applied. Even though I think I was a stronger writer than I was at any other subject, I definitely like placed a lot of internal pressure on that component. And the questions change every year, so I can't help you guys with that. But for me, I just was nervous. I was like, what are they going to think of me if I say this stuff that's kind of personal? But I think that was the best decision I could have made, was just to reveal as much as I could, because you want to represent things that are not shown anywhere else on your application in your essay and show them how creative you are and a little bit more of your personality, whereas your resume doesn't get to reflect all of that. So that's where you kind of get to shine, even if you're not a great writer. Like, just try to give them information that they can't find anywhere else in that application. And then as you move forward in the process, like, try to shake off the nerves as much as you can. I know things are going to be different in the spring with our finalist program being virtual, but you can definitely reach out to us during that program with questions and just make relationships and ask as many questions as you can, because that's how you're really going to know from the current scholars what UNC Charlotte is like, if it's going to be a home for you like it has been for us, all of those things. So that would be my advice. Good luck to you guys.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, we'll keep it moving just for the sake of, we have a lot of questions coming through. So along those same lines, can anyone just speak really quickly on what the interview process is like? I know it might look a little different this year.
I can speak to that a little bit.
Okay.
I don't know how it's going to change, but the Levine Scholars Finalist Weekend in general is just a great opportunity to see the campus and get familiarized with people that you'll be interacting with throughout your entire 4 years here. So that was really, really great. In terms of the actual interview process, it will be different this year, of course, because of COVID. But we had kind of like a panel style interview. I don't know if it's the same, Abe, where we were able to go in and the questions ranged from maybe more technical about specific experiences, and then to things that were a little bit more personal. And like Sarah said, things that can kind of express aspects of yourself that might not be represented on your resume or on other parts of your application. And so that was really, really cool to be able to speak directly with people in the campus community, first of all, because these are people that you'll see on campus in their various roles. And so that's great. And then on top of that, be able to kind of share a little bit more about yourself. And so I had a piece of advice for that as well. It would probably be just speak honestly and speak truthfully, of course, and make sure that you're expressing parts of yourself that might not be shown other places, because like Sarah said, that's really important in trying to make sure that your interviewers and the scholarship program knows who you are outside of maybe what is on paper. So for sure.
Awesome. Next question for students. How do you balance maintaining your grades and being proactive within your extracurricular activities, internships, programs, etc.?
I think you just kind of get used to it, if I'm being 100% honest with you. Being a student always comes first. That's what the staff will always say. But being involved on campus is just a really great way to meet new people, do lots of fun things. I know my freshman year, I was probably only involved with one club. This is my senior year. I am on 3 executive boards, also an SJ senator, and I'm doing a lot more than I've ever done, but I've never enjoyed a semester so much, if that makes sense. So I think you just grow into the programs, you really fall in love with the people you work with and the stuff that you're doing. So I'd really say it never really feels like a burden. It just feels like you're out here doing things that you really want to do. So I think it's a really great getaway from school.
Awesome, thank you. So this is for the or for you students as well. We can have just one of you kind of give us your perspective. But what would you say your favorite experience has been within the program? How do you feel you've grown through the experiences facilitated by the Levine Scholars Program?
That is such a good question, and probably the hardest to answer of any question we could get. For me, I think my favorite experience was studying abroad. I had never been out of the country before starting college. And when I heard that that was a requirement for the Levine Scholars Program, I was really excited because I knew it was something I wanted to do. But I needed a push. I definitely needed a push. I'm a homebody, so I wasn't all that proactive on actually getting it done. But Dr. Z encouraged me to sign up for the faculty-led trip, and the Levine Scholars Program does an annual faculty-led trip to different countries. This particular summer, she was going to attend a trip with UNC Charlotte's History Department to Jerusalem, Israel. And so Carlos and I and a bunch of other students actually got to do an archaeological dig in Jerusalem for about a month over the summer last year. So that was surreal. Had nothing to do with my major, but it sounded interesting. And with the support of the program, they'll let you know you can do things just because they sound interesting. Like, that's okay. Even if you don't get great course credit for it for your degree, it's still worth the trip. And it's definitely one of the best experiences I've had in my whole life, much less the last 4 years.
So cool. Thanks, Sarah. Another question, kind of similar, but I think very helpful for prospective Levine scholars. What made you decide that this program would help you go far?
This is a good question as well. I think that people who apply to this scholarship, I feel like a lot of people are extremely accomplished. So you're often, like Sarah also said, deciding between different universities, different campuses, different programs. So it's always really good to take a good look at the programs that you're applying for and see what exactly attracts you to them. One big thing about the Levine Scholars Program that I was really, really excited about was the programmatic aspect of the program, I guess. And so one really big thing is the fact that this isn't just money that is handed to you as a scholarship. It is a program that you are integrated into, that you have relationships within, that you follow through your 4 years and you grow through. And so that was something that really, really resonated with me when I was applying. I think it's great because we start off on a really intense experience in Wyoming, on Knowles, backpacking. And so we end with all these different other experiences that we've kind of accumulated throughout our 4 years. And it's kind of, since we're in cohorts, we have these relationships with our fellow peers. And that was really, really cool to me, to have that programmatic aspect that followed you throughout your undergraduate experience rather than just getting money and being able to apply that wherever. You have the support system through mentorship, through your peers, through the resources to basically build your undergraduate experience in a really, really unique way.
Thank you. So this question in terms of the internship piece, so can one of you share, the question directly is, were you able to get the internship you desired? So can one of you share the internship piece?
If you guys don't mind, I'll steal this one. Yes, 100% internship search is like usually facilitated being a Levine Scholar. You already have a lot coming into your freshman year. You do NOS, you do a nonprofit organization your freshman year, and then like come your sophomore, junior year, you're able to apply to those more prestigious internships. I know at least for myself, I was the first Levine Scholar to get a co-op in my sophomore year. Usually you co-op in your junior and senior year, and I was lucky enough to find an internship with Bosch in Charleston, South Carolina, after only completing 3 semesters of college. So that was really cool. And I've been really lucky with other internships. This past summer or past fall, I went to a convention in Phoenix, Arizona, and I was able to get quite a bit of internship offers there to many Fortune 500 companies, and then kind of select which one I wanted based on my values. So for me, I really wanted a diverse and younger work environment. And so I decided to go with Rockwell Automation this past summer. And this fall, I'm again applying to those internships. I already have the offer to come back and work with Rockwell Automation, which I'm strongly considering just because I enjoyed it so much. But I will say, being a Levine Scholar does help you out. The stuff that we do is phenomenal. We do NOS, which really helps out. It's a leadership program, and they love to see that. We also have a nonprofit internship, which just shows you have that commitment to the community. So definitely competitive in those areas.
Awesome, thank you. Can one of you speak briefly to the workload for a Levine Scholar?
I think to answer that question, it really depends on your major. Being a Levine Scholar at the baseline is not like so much about extra work that's imposed on you. I mean, we are really highly encouraged to like do work in our community and volunteer, which is something that most people do anyway. So it doesn't feel like, as Carlos said, that much of a burden. Where the workload really comes into play is just what major you choose, how many majors you choose, if you're able to do that. If you're doing like research in addition to your classes, if you're a TA, the organizations you're involved in and the responsibilities with that. But I wouldn't say that just foundationally being a Levine Scholar is like so much work on top of what you're already doing as a student. It's definitely more of a support system for you to feel competent and ready to take on the workload that you choose in other areas. So I hope it's not scary to you, but you really get to take on as much as you feel ready for by the choice of what you're investing your time into. And that can ebb and flow throughout college. I know right now I'm not in the busiest semester I've ever had because I chose to take like a bigger course load earlier on in college so that my senior year I can invest time into my job and some of my professional skills. So you'll be able to have that flexibility with Levine Scholar advising and your academic advising. You can definitely set your schedule up how you want so that it's not overwhelming.
I think that's very helpful, Sarah. Thank you. All right, so the next question, how has the Levine Scholars Program aided you in doing the research that you're interested in? Can any of you speak to the research piece?
Yeah, I can speak to that one. So like I said before, I'm really interested in public health, but that came as a product of one of my Levine Scholar experiences early in freshman summer. And through that experience as well, I got some connections to be able to do a public health research, I guess, be involved in a collaborative on our campus as well. Something that's really cool that's also through the Levine Scholars Program is the Levine Scholar Research Mentorship Initiative, which is basically just an opportunity for you to get connected to different research opportunities on campus and also all around the Charlotte community. So that was really, really cool. And that's how I'm able to do my current research in HIV and STD. And so One of the great things about the Levine Scholars Program is that you have these resources and mentors all over campus. And because you're part of this program, you have those connections as well. And so, of course, you can do it through the more direct avenue that I took by reaching out to one of the programs that was listed as part of this initiative. But of course, there's so many different connections as a Levine Scholar that you have access to because you know people and you have peers that have previously worked all over campus and done research all over campus in so many different disciplines. So you definitely have the opportunity to explore in that way as well. And I think that as a research campus, we have those opportunities everywhere, but being a Levine Scholar gives you access to some of those which you might not be as aware of if not. So I think it definitely was really, really impactful to have those connections and those relationships on our campus.
Awesome. All right. So many more questions that I feel like Abe's vigorously typing over
I'm
there.
trying to type as to the best of my ability, but I feel like they are growing. And I can definitely if you want to ask one or two more questions, I can hop on and probably get through a few of them quickly by responding verbally.
Okay, great. Yeah, I know there's a lot of overlap in some of those. So we will circle back to this one. I think we briefly touched on it, but I will go back. It's a little more direct. So if any one of you applied to multiple or maybe more than one major merit scholarship program back when you were applying, can you speak to why you chose the Levine to accept your offer when you were received the scholarship?
Yeah, so I had applied to a couple all over, especially in North Carolina, because of, there's just so many scholarships like this that are similar. But I ended up choosing the Levine Scholar Program out of the ones that I got and was considering because of, like I said, that programmatic aspect before. I think that it was really great to have that. And I think that Charlotte was just a really great place to kind of foster that undergraduate experience as well. I really fell in love with the campus when I came on Father's Weekend. I don't think I mentioned it, but I'm from Gastonia, so I'm only 45 minutes away. But this is one of the first times I was actually on campus and seeing where I could call home for the next 4 years. And so I really, really appreciate the campus and the proximity to a really, really large city. And as someone who is pre-med, I love the opportunities that would be available for medicine, but of course, this opportunity is the same for a lot of other disciplines just because of how busy and resource-filled the city is. And so definitely those are things to consider. Of course, there's so many amazing programs all over North Carolina and across the nation as well. But I think the Levine Scholars Program is exceptional in the ways that they have crafted this program to build your undergraduate experiences kind of in an explorative way and allow you to do that not only during the academic year, but also during the summers, also through your volunteering, through civic engagement. So it's all across the board, a way for you to enrich your undergraduate experience.
Thank you so much. Very, very helpful. Abe, do you want to?
Yes, let me just jump right in very quickly. A few individuals kind of talked about, and I'll put these together in terms of your chances for being selected and as well as the criteria that we utilize. The chance varies from year to year. I will let you know that the scholarship ultimately is awarded to 20 incoming scholars every year. One of the things that we have done to make sure that you have opportunities not only to the Levine Scholarship, but also other merit scholarships at UNC Charlotte is the materials that you submit for the Levine Scholarship help to satisfy the materials that are required for the other merit scholarships at UNC Charlotte. So do know that the effort you're putting in for this is actually effort that will go towards the other programs as well. As far as the criteria is concerned, really the three things that we're looking for, as I mentioned in the presentation, is intellectual curiosity. So, what is your passion for learning? And as far as your ability for leadership, so we are not expecting fully formed leaders, but hopefully individuals that have started to do what they can with the experiences that they've been able to have at the high school level. And then really the last piece is your commitment to service. So are you the type of individual who thinks beyond themselves who is interested to make a difference in their community for the betterment of others. So as we are reviewing all parts of your application, that is really, and I truly mean it when I say we've got a rubric. Those are the 3 categories under which we are evaluating your application and providing scores based on the responses that you provide. So that is really kind of the key aspect of what we look for. With the essays, we do say a maximum word count of 500. I will tell you that no one is going to go and count if you are at word 501 or 550. But we kind of put the limits just to really give you enough space so that way you're able to communicate your thought. But we're also not expecting you to write 2-3 pages because again, the other parts of the review process will give us a chance to get to know you a little bit more. So do your best to stay towards 500, but if you need a little bit more to complete your thought, complete your thought. So as again, you are uploading your PDF, so it is not going to cut you off. But again, you also don't want to go write 2 pages when that obviously is not what we are asking you to be able to do. The question earlier, like I mentioned, it is offered to about 20 individuals per year. There was a question about one of the essay questions, which talks about how you would utilize the material or the resource that you have for a nonprofit. Again, it is us just to hear about your experience with working nonprofits or volunteering in the past. It is our way of trying to gauge your ability at identifying need. So the question is framed in a way where it is very much so hypothetical because obviously in life, resources are finite. But in this particular case, we just want to see what kind of needs have you identified and what creative solutions can you identify to try to address those if there weren't the parameters of a finite resource. So feel free to be as creative as you want. That's kind of what we're looking for. Someone has asked when interviews are conducted. So finalist program, which will take place on February 14th and 15th, while it will look very different this year, we are planning to contain all of the interviews on February 15th. You will get additional information about that as we get closer. So it is not something that you need to be worrying about right now. What you really should focus on is just making sure that you kind of block off that date for the time being. And by January 2nd, we will let you know kind of what your specific schedule looks like. I've seen a few questions about test scores. I really want to stress that we are test optional this year, and we are taking it to the level where, because we know some individuals do not have the ability to provide test scores, we are actually removing that information from our reviewers. So we don't want to essentially kind of give points to an individual because they provided test scores and penalize someone that did not, or also do the same based on the score that you may have earned. So to really truly equalize the whole process, while it is recorded, it is not necessary to complete your application, but we are removing it from that process. So if you are stressed because you did not provide it, do not worry, because it is not something that we are going to be looking at when making a decision. So a few of you have asked, and I'm just kind of going to group this together, if the documents that you've already provided, because I know one of the tips that I gave you is that you have the ability to, or it would be in your best interest for the list of activities, in addition to listing the activity, possibly writing 1 or 2 sentences to describe what it is. If you are interested in doing that, all parts of your document that you've actually have already submitted, you can go back and update. You have the ability to do that all the way until November 16th. You can upload a new document once you've made the update. So if you are interested in doing that, go ahead and do so. Again, it is not something that you have to do, but if you have the time, you definitely have the ability within the portal to be able to do that. There's a question about your acceptance status for the Levine Scholarship having an impact on your freshman application. Those two things are separate. So undergraduate admissions will make a decision, and then the Levine Scholarship will also make a decision as well. And those are two independent processes. Of course, you do have to be admitted for the university to receive the Levine Scholarship. Typically, if you meet kind of the criteria for the Levine Scholarship, you should be a strong candidate for the university as well. Semi-finalists are going to be chosen on December 1st. So that announcement will go out in your Future 49er portal, and you will also get an email basically kind of reminding you to go into your Future 49er portal to essentially check what your status is. So Chelsea, do you want to take one or two questions and then I can jump back in?
Sure, yeah. So we're right at 5, but we can hang on for a few more minutes if that's okay, to tackle a few more before we hop off. And then after that, maybe we can share contact information so students can follow up with us after the session. That we did get a question, I think, in terms of going back to the student experience that I think would be helpful to know, which is just a question about, I know you all are in upperclassmen, but can you talk about, for this semester, things being so different, just how it looks different and how you've adjusted to the current semester that we're in?
I can speak to that a little bit. So right now I'm taking classes on campus. So I'm living off campus right now, but I do have an in-person class as well. So I'm coming to campus pretty regularly. I'm also applying to med school, so that's something that's new. And I'm continuing research virtually and volunteering in person at a clinic. So it's kind of a combination of trying to balance those things, continuing with civic engagement, being involved in the community, and keeping up with your classes, kind of in a mix of virtual and in person. So it is a little bit of a challenge, but of course, some of your high school seniors and juniors, so you all know, kind of that mix has been a little bit challenging. But just wanted to say that we have had really good support from the program itself and from our advisors. We're still able to sometimes pop in person if we need to chat, and the calendars are always available if we need to set up a virtual appointment as well. So it's definitely been a switch, but it's been facilitated by some really good mentorship, and I've appreciated that as well.
Does anyone else want to add to maybe how they've adjusted or how it's been different with this fall semester? Carlos or Sarah?
I can definitely add on a little bit. For myself, it's also been, I have only 2 classes in person, one of them being a lab. So I still perform my lab stuff in person. We do have to wear like protective gloves. We do wear goggles and a mask at all times. So that is kind of something we have to adjust to. But the remote class is kind of, I assume, just like a lot of you high school seniors, it's just a lecture through Zoom or WebEx, and we're having to do a lot of studying on our own, but we still have the support from the professors. We're able to email them at all times. I know as a Levine Scholar, one of the biggest benefits that we have is like having the LSP staff, and having that support is still there. I know I exchange a lot of emails with the director, Dr. Z, sometimes just talking about sports and stuff like that. So you still have some form of communication. It's not the same as being in person because you could just pop in randomly, but it is still there, if that makes sense.
Awesome. Thank you, Carlos. And we will go with one final question about the experience. I think this is a good one to kind of speak to UNC Charlotte, to the experience in general. But for students who, with Levine being so competitive, for students who aren't selected for Levine, do you feel like UNC Charlotte provides great opportunities even aside from the program?
I might jump in for this one. So I think my experience was a little bit unique because as soon as I returned back to Raleigh from finalist program, I actually submitted my intent to enroll to Charlotte, even without knowing I was eventually going to be a recipient. And I think for me, that just kind of speaks to like how amazing the university is, even outside of this very competitive and awesome program. You're really not going to go wrong as a student because there's so many ways you can get involved. There's professional organizations, athletic organizations, obviously of the city of Charlotte there. So we have the light rail on campus, so you can get there for free and really easily just by taking the train. So there's always things to do, which is, I think, kind of like the fun highlight of college. But you also have opportunities professionally outside of merit scholarships on campus because of all of the ways your professors can help you. You can still join honors programs, whether it's in your discipline or other programs within the honors college. But your network is going to grow really fast at Charlotte and in Charlotte, just by like talking to professors, making friends with other students. By the time you look back 4 years later, you're gonna be like, wow, I can't believe I met all those people and did all of those things. So there's definitely gonna be a home for you at Charlotte, whether or not it's within the Levine Scholars Program. Obviously, we hope that it is. But keep your options open and make sure that one of your primary goals is getting involved, getting out of your comfort zone, because that's what's really gonna turn into those opportunities that you'll start getting a sense for as soon as your freshman year. So I'm excited someone asked that because I feel like I relate a lot.
Sure. I think that that's very helpful. All of the insight that you all have provided is so valuable, I think, for students to get an understanding, certainly of the program specifically. And I think you all spoke very well to your different experiences as a Levine scholar that I think also are a testament to the overall experience as a student at UNC Charlotte. So thank you so much for your time coming on and sharing a little bit of your personal stories to help all of us learn a lot more about the opportunities through the program. Abe, is there anything just in closing to wrap it up that you would like to share?
Yeah, no, I definitely want to echo your statement, Chelsea. So thank you, Carlos, Sarah, and Chiamaka for taking the time to participate in this. And to our attendees as well, we hope that the information that we provided you has been informative. I know we were not able to get to all of your questions, but if you look in the chat, our email address is listed there. So please feel free to direct your email address there. Myself and one of my colleagues are actually the ones that manage the email account. So we will be able to get you a response as quickly as possible. For those of you that are in the process of completing your application, I want to wish you the best of luck. Let you know we are here to support you. So do not hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions. November 16th will definitely be here before you know it. So definitely encourage you to utilize your time for the next 5 days very well. And then lastly, thank you so much, Chelsea, for creating this opportunity for us to share this information.
Yes, thank you all. And we hope to see you for future sessions throughout the rest of the week for Honors College Week. If you haven't registered for that event, you can do so through the Future 49er portal. But enjoy the rest of your Wear Green Wednesday. And we'll see you. Love it, Sarah. And we'll see you hopefully in other sessions. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.